guys, I just noticed I had orange on my last video too that I did. It was it was a polo. And this is a tee, not that this is Syracuse basketball, so I'm from Syracuse originally, so I'm going to display the orange and blue proudly. Anyway, this is a collection update. Picked up a few things, and I'm going to show them off and talk about them briefly. I don't know if there's a lot to say about a few of them, but because I haven't seen the movie yet. But I did watch one of them I'm going to talk about. Be a mini review. This one will just be showing that I got it. I like the look of it. I saw it on somebody else's channel. Can't remember whose. And that is Creed, the Steelbook. Somebody was saying, again, I don't remember who it was, that these were in really short supply. Most Targets only got like 10 of them. And that he was shopping there yesterday. And it might have been Corey Reviews. And he said there's like one copy left. I had 5 left in my Target. And this is Wednesday. And I was there in the afternoon about 3 o'clock. So as of 3 o'clock Wednesday, I had 5 copies in my Target. So don't be discouraged. You may have some in your Target like I did. You know, popular movie, I think. But, you know, not everybody is a collector. Not everybody wants to steal it. But this is a nice one. It's got a nice, I think the back is nice. I've not seen this movie, but I've heard really good things about it. I like the fact that they're continuing the Rocky franchise with Apollo Creed's son. I think that's kind of cool. I have seen a few scenes from it. He seems like a dick, but I know. I'm sure he's just got you know. Oh, it's got a nice backdrop here of Philadelphia. Kind of cool. He acted like he had a chip on his shoulder, and I guess he's got something to prove, and probably the legacy of his dad and everything else. But I understand Michael B. Jordan was excellent in the movie. And so, of course, he didn't get nominated for anything because he's black, right? You know, that whole controversy about that. I do think that people who are black or Asian or whatever, if they have a good performance, they should be nominated for an Academy Award. And if they're good enough, they should win. Now, we certainly had plenty of black, Asian people win. I did find Chris Rock very amusing. I thought one of his lines was ill-chosen. But you know, I'm not going to get into all that. But him being African American probably can get away with it. Whereas if a white person would have said it, would have been ooh. But you know, I do think that. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of. I didn't see Straight Outta Compton, so I can't comment on that. I heard it was good. I haven't seen Creed either, so I can't comment on Michael B. Jordan's performance. But I heard it was good. But typically, you know, these kind of movies don't often get a lot of nods. I mean, Rocky did, the original one. But I don't know that he's got any... Since Rocky came out, I don't believe there was the other Rockies got nominated for anything but maybe a song. Could be wrong. But, I mean, Burgess Meredith was good in it. You know, a lot of people were really good in the Rocky movies. But it's not the kind of movie, typically, unless it's a Raging Bull, unless it's a Scorsese movie. Typically, these movies don't get the recognition. Now, I thought this one might, but I don't think Sylvester Stallone won either, did he? I don't think he did. He was nominated. I don't think he won. I heard he was really good, too. Anyway, Michael B. Jordan, not nominated, I guess. But I'll watch it and see what I think. Nice-looking Steelbook, though. You can still pick it up, maybe, at your Target. Now, the movie that I watched did win an Academy Award. And the only reason... I didn't even know this movie was out. I never heard of the movie. Quite frankly, I've certainly heard of the artist, but I can't say I was familiar with her music. This one for Best Documentary, and the name of the movie is Amy. It's, of course, the story of Amy Winehouse. And I guess I would have thought she was something different than she is. She's really a jazz singer, and a damn good one. She's like a Dinah Washington or an Aretha Franklin or... she's very interesting from a vocal standpoint. And her life story was very interesting. You know, she started out, they go into some detail on this, and this is a 2-hour documentary, by the way. And again, I mentioned it won the Academy Award. A lot of controversy. Her father doesn't like it, thinks it puts her in a bad light. But she died from drugs. She was a heavy drinker. Her last, she made 2 albums, Frank and Back to Black. Frank was like in maybe 2004. Back to Black was maybe 2006, something like that. 6, 7, I don't have those exactly down. And then she died in 2011, never made another album after Back to Black, and was going to, but I mean, she got hooked up with, I mean, her father seemed like a nut job. I mean, he was telling her she didn't need rehab when she really needed rehab. Then he tried to do an intervention, but it was all screwed up. But she finally did kick drugs for a while, but then she was bored with life. It was really a sad story. She was bulimic, an alcoholic probably, or certainly an abuser, a drug addict, heroin, crack cocaine, but she made some beautiful music. Those first 2 albums, I love the song Back to Black. In fact, the album Back to Black I really like. I mean, she added some keyboards, and the first one was sparser, frank, but still great, and it showcases her vocals. And she did a wonderful, I can't think of the name of it. She did a wonderful duet with Tony Bennett, who picked her for the duet. And there's a great scene with the 2 of them shooting the duet in the studio. And she just idolizes Tony Bennett, you can tell. She was an interesting character. She really was. She got hooked up with a guy who she married, who sort of introduced her to drugs, but didn't really want to introduce her to drugs, but he was doing drugs, and then she started doing drugs, and she went further than he did with them. And but sort of an innocence to her. Even at the end, even in her drunken stupor, there was sort of an innocence to her. And you see her in this documentary from the time she's young, say 4, till the time she's a teenager singing Happy Birthday in a great voice to another teenage girl who's having a birthday. To, when she first started out, thankfully her original manager, who was, I think, 19 when she was 16, filmed a lot of things, or had it filmed. So there's a lot of scenes in like cars, in studios, at radio stations, at record stores too, I think. But all these and just kind of hanging out, where you can see kind of different sides of Amy Winehouse. And really was a tragedy that she passed away at 27. She joined the 27 Club, which, Jimi Hendrix and Rod McKernan, or Pigpen from the Grateful Dead, Janis Joplin. There's been a bunch. All at 20. Jim Morrison, all at 27 years of age. There's something weird about 27. And she died at 27. I don't know what it is. It just, 27 is a bad year, apparently, for folks. But Amy, I liked it a lot. I really did. The music in it is wonderful. And anytime she's singing, they put the lyrics right on the screen, kind of like in a handwritten, but you can read it easily. It's not her handwriting. It's just script. You can read it easily. Her lyrics are expressive. She wrote her own songs, all of them. Very expressive, very unique. Really fascinating, really. And her vocal stylings are jazz with something else in there. I don't know what else is in there, but it's definitely jazz. So I really liked Amy. And I look at this picture of her. When I used to see, when she was alive, prior to 2011, I'd see her in the news, or people were making jokes about her drunkenness or her drug addiction or whatever. And I just saw her as a kind of a caricature. She was like this skinny bird figure with this big old beehive hairdo that seemed out of place from the 60s. Then I just thought she was like maybe a trashy, drug-addled, whatever. And she was to some extent. But there was also this innocence. And again, I look at this picture and I see the innocence from that girl who in her teens. That's what I see there. This heavy thing that she put on her eyes, it was almost like a tattoo in some ways. She had it on all the time when she was performing. When it shows her with that off and without the makeup, she certainly looks a lot more innocent than maybe you would think. Anyway, Amy Winehouse, the documentary is Amy. If you like documentaries, about musicians in particular, if you like jazz music and you haven't heard Amy Winehouse, I went out and bought ordered from Amazon her 3 albums. She did the Frank, Back to Black, and then she did a third one, which is kind of, I think, mostly covers of older material. I can't tell you all the songs. Maybe To Know Him Is to Love Him, maybe is one of them. Anyway, I'm looking forward to getting the whole thing. So I get all 3 for like $20 at Amazon. But Amy Winehouse, really like this movie a lot. So if you're into documentaries and jazz, I suggest you pick it up. Now, That's 10 minutes on the nose. Now we get on to this package that arrived. It arrived from the UK. It is not from Zavvi, for a change. The UK does not. The Criterion Collection, of which I own a lot, these 4 shelves, and also now almost 5 shelves. Soon to probably be 5 shelves. Some 240 or so Criterion discs. And Criterion does a great job. I mean, you look at some of these packages, like you take a John Cassavetes 5 films. This is not DVD. I never got the Blu-ray, but you take this really nice package, with a nice book and a documentary about him, and it's 8 discs and really a beautiful set. I'm happy to have the DVD. Well, I like the Blu-ray. If I get the DVD, I'm not going to upgrade that. I don't believe it's too expensive to upgrade. Unless I sold it for about what I paid for it, then I might think about it. Anyway, the UK doesn't have Criterion because Criterion, the DVDs are region free, I believe, but the Blu-rays are locked. So I think that's how it works, if I remember right. So you can have a DVD, but you can't have a Blu-ray. Of course, a lot of people like the Blu-rays. This community is heavily into Blu-rays. So where to turn if you're in the UK or any place else besides the United States? Well, there is a place, and I'm going to show you what I picked up from this place. I got 4 selections. All of them come from, I haven't opened any of them yet, and I haven't seen any of these movies before. It's Masters of Cinema, the EUREKA collection, and this is Spine number 1 on the Blu-ray side. They do a little differently in the Masters of Cinema. They number the Blu-rays in like 1 through whatever, and they have the DVDs 1 through whatever. So they're not mixed. So it's kind of cool in a way. They mix with the Criterions. They mix them. So you might have number 6 on DVD and number 3 on Blu-ray or whatever. Especially if they haven't reissued it on Blu-ray, you maybe have no choice. Anyway, this first movie, this Spine number 1 from the Masters of Cinema EUREKA collection, is a movie by F.W. Murnau. Stars Janet Gaynor and George O'Brien. And I've seen scenes from it. I've certainly read a lot of reviews about it. It's got 2 versions of it, the 1927 version, and then I guess an updated version that has some other stuff on it. This has the Blu-ray and the DVD combined, dual format, sort of like Criterion did. I'm talking about Sunrise. It's supposed to be one of the most influential and one of the most beautiful films done. It's a small town guy and his gal, and the big city gal comes in to try to take him away. It's a love story. There is a lot of extras with it. So, subtitle, A Tale of Two Humans, by the way, which I think is appropriate as well. Yeah, what it says is, this new edition of Sunrise, for the first time anywhere in the world on Blu-ray, contains 2 versions of the film, the previous released movie tone version and an alternate silent version of the film, recently discovered in the Czech Republic, of a higher visual quality than any other known source. The culmination of one of the greatest careers in film history, F.W. Murnau's Sunrise, blends a story of fable-like simplicity, I love stories like that, with unparalleled visual imagination and technical ingenuity. Invited to Hollywood by William Fox and given total artistic freedom on any project he wished, Murnau's tale of the idyllic marriage of a peasant couple, O'Brien and Gaynor, threatened by a vamp-like seductress from the city, created a milestone of film expressionism. Made in the twilight of the silent era, Sunrise became both a swan song for a vanishing medium and one of the few films to instantly achieve legendary status. Winner of 3 Oscars for Best Picture or Best Actress, Cinematography, and a never-repeated award for Unique and Artistic Picture. And it's the only film never to win that, apparently. Its influence and stature has only grown with each passing year. The Masters of Cinema series is very proud to present Sunrise on Blu-ray and 2 DVDs. So there's 3 discs in here. And what appears to be a pretty heavy booklet. You know, I usually can gauge the weight of these by how big the booklet is, by how much it weighs, and this weighs a bit. Love the clear cases, similar to the Criterion collection. Love the look of it. I love the look of the British CDs or DVDs and Blu-rays anyway. Just like the package is just a little different. It seems a little square or something. I don't know what it is. Tons of special features on this, including original English intertitles. That's different than a subtitle. Intertitles usually had the dialogue and then you cut to the scene and so on. So, whereas subtitles, you're in the scene with the titles below. Different. I'm not sure which is better. Having the intertitles allows you to read what's happening and then see it acted out. It takes a little longer. Subtitles, you have to kind of read it and look at it, sort of. After a while, you get good at it, but I can understand why intertitles might be preferable for some folks. Full-length audio commentary by cinematographer John Bailey on the movie tone version. Rare outtakes with John Bailey commentary. Mermouse and Four Devils, Traces of a Lost Film. It's an updated documentary, a 20-page booklet. Details of the film, restorations, and comparison of the versions. So really good stuff. Here's the spine. Here's the back. Take a look at that. Yeah. Here we go. Give you an idea what it looks like anyway. The film is from 1927, I think. Yeah, 1927. Of course, it's a silent film with intertitles. Usually there's a score to these. I think there probably is. It doesn't mention a score, but I'm sure there's a score to this. But as I always like to say with silent movies, you can put on anything you want. So if I decide to put on Frank Sinatra when I watch this, or Tony Bennett, or Amy Winehouse, actually that might be a good choice. Might be a great choice actually. We'll see. I can put any of those on and still enjoy that. All right, next is. Sorry for the top of my head there. Okay. Oh, this one. Okay, I really look forward. This is spine number 44. Really look forward to this one. This says it's a limited edition Blu-ray. I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know if they only printed so many copies or they only have the rights for some. Who knows what it means? I don't pretend to know. It's a movie from 1944, and it's called Double Indemnity. I've always been a fan of Fred MacMurray. This also stars Barbara Stanwyck. I've enjoyed her in a lot of movies as well. I think this is going to be a good movie. I know a little bit about it. I don't know enough about it to, just talk off the top of my head about it. But I have read about it, so I'll read what it says. It's Double Indemnity is a dazzling, quintessential film noir whose enormous popular success and 7 Oscar nominations catapulted Billy Wilder, Some Like It Hot, Sunset Boulevard, The Apartment, into the very top tier of Hollywood's writer-directors. Adapted from a novella by James Cain, who also did The Postman Always Rings Twice. Co-written by Wilder and Raymond Chandler, who wrote The Big Sleep and The Long Goodbye, pretty famous author there. Double Indemnity remains the hardest bolted of delectations. Hardest boiled of delectations, sorry. The Masters of Cinema series is proud to present Billy Wilder's landmark film for the first time anywhere in the world on Blu-ray. Special features of the Blu-ray edition. Exclusive new high-definition restoration, naturally. Audio commentary by film historian Nick Redman and screenwriter Lem Dobbs. Shadows of Suspense, a 2006 making-of documentary about this. The 1945 Screen Guild Theater radio adaptation of Double Indemnity, starring Barbara Stanwyck and Fred MacMurray, so the same folks. The original theatrical trailer, optional music and streets and effects track, interesting. Optional English subtitles for the deaf and hearing impaired. Well, that's always nice when they do that. 40-page, and I may need that soon enough. 40-page booklet featuring a 1976 interview by John Allen with Billy Wilder. An extract from a 1976 interview with James M. Cain comparing his original serial with Wilder's film adaptation. Documentation of Raymond Chandler's attitude toward working within the Hollywood studio system. An extract from the original screenplay depicting the excised death chamber ending. A note on the restoration and rare archival imagery. Again, it's from 1944. 108 minutes. This is 1.37 to 1 aspect ratio, so similar to the squareness of a TV. Yeah. Like the cover. Sometimes less is more on covers. I kind of like that cover. All right, so that's that one. Again, it's spine 44. Let's double indemnity. Now, get on to some, I think, controversial ones. Sorry for the close-up. Okay. Believe me. Spine 52. These are in order of spines. This is one of the most controversial films ever made. And rightfully so. I've seen scenes from this. It's 194 minutes long, so it is long. We're talking over 3 hours long. It is a groundbreaking, inflammatory epic. It's widely regarded as the first feature film. It's widely regarded as the first feature film masterpiece in the history of cinema. And I'm talking about D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation. Here depicted on the cover, of course, is the assassination of Abraham Lincoln and John Wilkes Booth jumping to the stage. You know, interestingly, John Wilkes Booth thought he would be a hero when he shot Lincoln, because his cultish group was so believed that Lincoln was wrong and so believed what he was doing was just hurting this country, that he believed that that was more widespread than his cultish group. And so when he killed Lincoln, much to the shock of the nation, he really believed he would be revered and thanked, and you know, they'd have parades in his honor. Obviously that didn't happen, and he miscalculated pretty significantly, and they hunted him down and eventually shot and killed John Wilkes Booth. But anyway, that's not what this movie's about. It starts with that, as I recall, or at least it's in there early, I believe. But what it talks about, the birth of the nation, is how the move from slavery to non-slavery affected the country. Well, let me read what it says. I have never watched the whole 3 hours. I've seen enough of it to know generally what happens, but let's see what the big picture is with this. One of the most artistically significant and controversial motion pictures ever made, D.W. Griffith's silent epic, The Birth of a Nation, was a massive commercial success at the time of its release, owing to its dynamic storytelling and its breakthrough developments in cinema language that have become common traits of practically every film that has ever since followed. This was revolutionary. However, the picture's legacy is one that continues to affect outrage over its vulgar depictions of African Americans and its deceptive history of the United States in the second half of the 19th century. So it's going to go from 1850-ish through 1900. Birth of a Nation begins depicting the amiable relationship between two families, Northern and Southern, and the way in which the impending Civil War intensifies the conflict of their worldviews. Following the end of the war and the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, a lawless chaos courses throughout the Reconstruction South, and the Ku Klux Klan is formed to take on a rising black militia and impose a vengeful vigilance justice across their land and birthright. The Ku Klux Klan is portrayed in Birth of a Nation as kind of heroes. Like, it's sort of like, oh, thank God they came to the rescue, because, you know, these heathen blacks were out of control. You know, they were rioting, and these guys in white had to come forward and you know, even though they endangered themselves to do it, put themselves and their families at risk, which is why they wore the mask. I mean, there's a lot of things sort of implied like that they're heroic. Anyway, it's a film that deeply divisive, even to the senses of a single viewer. Images of painterly beauty in composition and tonal quality often exhibit a contemptuous, inflammatory coarseness with regard to subject matter. Just as frequently, long tracks show an innocent, terrifically lyrical grandeur. Griffith would attempt to make amends for the moral schism of the schizophrenic epic in his next film, Intolerance. But The Birth of the Nation cannot and should not remain unseen or undiscussed. It is a great and terrible masterpiece. The Masters of Cinema releases Griffith's 3-hour epic, including a series of the director's Civil War shorts, for the first time on Blu-ray in the UK. Yeah. Tons of extras on this too. Music by somebody or other, DTS master audio in both 2.0 and 5.1 surround. Short archival introductions to the film by D.W. Griffith and Walter Huston. 1930 re-release, title sequence, 7 Civil War shorts directed by Griffith. They list them all. Documentary on the making of the film, a 44-page booklet containing vintage writing by D.W. Griffith and others. D.W. Griffith, aside from being a pretty famous director and probably more influential on the epic film than anybody, certainly in this country anyway, formed United Artists with Mary Pickford and Charlie Chaplin. So that was interesting. But he was probably a racist from if his sensibilities are what formed this, he was more than likely a racist. He might have even owned slaves at one point. I don't know. I'd have to Google him more, and I haven't done that. But I do know that he was seen in not a positive light then and now for making this film. But I still think it's an important film, and I'm happy to add it to my collection. I will watch the whole thing. Perhaps in disgust, but it was a different time. This thing was made in 1915. The Civil War was not that old. There were still a lot of hard feelings between the North and the South in the early 1900s. People still remembered the battles. It was a very divisive war. And I'm not saying anything he's doing in this movie is right. Oh, some of it probably is. Some of it was factual. Lincoln was shot. A lot of these things follow a factual basis. I think it's mainly in the Ku Klux Klan part of the story, in particular, and some of the depictions of blacks and what they allegedly were doing, was just really racist and stereotypical and not right. So anyway, The Birth of a Nation. I like the cover art. You see that? I like the cover art. Here's the back. And here's the spine. Good stuff. Controversial? Yes. But nonetheless good. Okay, last one that I got. Spine number 99. And I really felt like I had to get this one. This was kind of a balancing for me. This came out in 1916, 1 year after The Birth of a Nation. 167 minutes long. So we're talking, again, almost 3 hours. 1.33 to 1 aspect ratio, so it is a TV size screen. 1080p film. What am I talking about? I'm talking about D.W. Griffith's follow-up, Intolerance, or Love's Struggle Throughout the Ages. Yeah. This tells the story over, and I've seen, again, parts of this, but never the whole thing. I think scenes on YouTube years ago on the public television station, I've caught parts of it, but it covers love throughout, that's what it says, throughout the ages. Numerous stories throughout different time frames. So you've got modern, 1900-ish. Then you go back as far as like Cleopatra, that era. So here's the okay, I'll read it from the beginning. After shaking, I got time. After shaking the world, like where else am I going to go? After shaking the world with his usually controversial epic, The Birth of a Nation, pioneer filmmaker D.W. Griffith spared no expense in putting together his next project, a powerful examination of intolerance as it has persisted throughout civilization, set across 4 parallel storylines that span 2,500 years. There's a Babylonian story depicting nothing less than the fall of Babylon, a Judean story which revolves around the crucifixion of Christ, a French story which presents the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre in all its horror, and a modern American story of class struggle, crime, and the plight in the early 20th century set within urban slums and the prison system. It makes you wonder why it's called Love Struggle Throughout the Ages. It's not about love, obviously. Starring such luminaries as Lillian Gish, Constance Talmadge, and Miriam Cooper, who share screen time with an enormous main cast and some 3,000 extras, Griffith's film, the most expensive motion picture ever produced at the time, went on to become a critical success whose influence has only grown in the decades since. The Masters of Cinema series is proud to present the 2013 restoration of Kevin Brownlow's and David Gill's Preserved Intolerance, featuring Carl Davis's orchestral score for the first time on Blu-ray in the UK. A new 1080p high-definition presentation of the 2013 restoration, Carl Davis's orchestral score in stereo and 5.1 soundtracks, Griffith's companion feature films The Fall of Babylon and The Mother and the Law, expanding upon these two storylines from Intolerance, presented in high definition with new stereo scores by Monalto Motion Picture Orchestra. A video interview with preservationist and historian Kevin Brownlow, plus a 40-page booklet featuring essays by William Drew, Richard Porton, and Pauline Kael. Pauline Kael, extremely famous movie critic. Think Roger Ebert times 2, maybe. She was a newspaper, sometimes television critic from the 40s and 50s, well, 30s, 40s, and 50s probably is my guess. And she was very influential. If she didn't like a movie, people didn't like a movie. If she trashed a movie, people didn't go see the movie. Kind of like Roger Ebert. Roger Ebert probably reached more people. Pauline Kael was very influential and knew it and used some of that power to push her agenda sometimes, to, I guess, do a variety of things. Anyway, this is Intolerance. There's the front. There's the spine. There's the back. I'm going to say that from what I've seen, without opening them up and watching the movies or anything, that these are comparable to Criterion's. And I would recommend. I'm not going to go as nuts with these as I did. Although these are priced better than Criterion's. I picked up most of these for 10 or 11 pounds, so that's like $15 or $17. So they're priced better. The two expensive ones were Birth of the Nation was a little bit more money, and Intolerance was, but they're 3-hour movies, so I kind of got that. The other two I think were 10 pounds. That's $15, and then no tax and no shipping. So pretty good deal. Masters of Cinema Eureka. You can Google. I don't remember the website, but you can Google Masters of Cinema Blu-ray. Or Masters of Cinema Eureka, and you'll go to their website and you can see what they've got. Now, you have to have a region-free player to play these, but if you have that, if you have the means, I would recommend these. Should I open one up? All right. Since you asked me to nicely, I will. They have like a little strip down here, which normally if you can get the strip started. Oh, yeah, I can. That's how easy this is to open these. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, you can see it right there all the way across. You just start it here at the bottom, and you just go all the way across with it like that. And once you get that off, the bottom just comes off, the top just comes off, and you're in like Flint, or in like Flynn, whatever that movie was called. So let's open Intolerance. That's what I'm going to open and see what it looks like. Yes, sir. Thank you. So you've got, yeah, this is nicely done. 2 discs here. I'm going to just straighten them out here.